I'm Howard Feldman. A very good day to you and welcome to Imagine If I Were Sensitive. This is a podcast where I chat to people that I'm interested in, people who have the courage to say things and to follow a journey that maybe is a little obscure, a little bit different, and sometimes they stand up where others sit down. Joining me today is Dr. Ron Schleifer. Who is he? Well, he's got his doctorate in psychological warfare. I had the privilege of listening to him speak the other evening, and I thought this is information that I would absolutely love to share. Because, of course, since October the 7th, many of us have noticed this war that is taking place on many fronts. There's lawfare, there's warfare, there's social media, there's things happening around campuses, and it's sometimes quite difficult to understand what is actually going on. The one thing we do know for sure is that it doesn't look good. Dr. Ron Schleifer, good morning. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
So what is psychological warfare?
Psychological warfare is the use of propaganda in war, meaning we are looking for ways which are non-violent, essentially, to persuade various target audiences in wartime. We're using propaganda is used all throughout the year, all throughout the world. Economical, political, social, behavioral, whatever. But in wartime, this is more essential. So we're looking for psychological methods to persuade various target audiences to do what we want them to do. So if it's the enemy, which is normally associated with, so we try to persuade him to pull away from the war, persuade his leaders to go back from the war. And if it's too much, and normally it's too much, so we ask him to influence your close circle, run away from the battlefield, fall prisoner to our soldiers. Nothing will happen to you if you behave the way we ask you to, and at the end of the war, you come back to your family.
Right. Okay. So it's really using different means to influence psychologically the enemy soldiers, as well as enemy population.
Exactly, because the enemy soldiers rely on their home base, on their home population. And the enemy civilians are basically electing their leadership, and the leadership is choosing their high officers. So we want to try them to pull out or to accept our terms or persuade them that they're going to lose anyway, so why prolong the suffering? So we're using psychological methods of persuasion, or PR, if you wish.
And this is something we're seeing now because, in fact, the use, Hamas's quite cynical use of the hostages is an example of that. But where did this come from? Has there been a prior example of this?
Let me go back a little bit to what you're saying, cynical. In psychological warfare, we don't use judgmental language. The only criteria that matters if it works. If it works.
Okay.
So it is from the perspective.
I feel I'm schooled there. I will not use any judgmental language.
It's not
No, I'm joking. You can't take me seriously.
You have to realize that propaganda is a profession. And if the enemy is, you're trying to outsmart the enemy, just like you want trying to outsmart your competitor in the commercial field, to outsmart your enemy on the military field. And if your enemy outsmarted you, so you don't bang your head on the wall, what you're trying to do is to analyze how he did that and what can you do in order to outsmart him in the future. So what we see with the hostages is a replay or lessons learned on a far larger scale from the episode or the incident of the kidnapping of Gilad Shalit in 2005.
And for those who don't know, he was an Israeli soldier that was kidnapped in 2005. He was held by Hamas in Gaza for about 5 years, somewhere around there. And ultimately, Israel did a prisoner swap with him that has been quite highly criticized because of the magnitude of the deal. So you're saying that, and how did they achieve this deal?
In psychological warfare, during wartime, we are looking at three main target audiences. First of all, we need to persuade our own audience to support the war because the war is so demanding on every aspect of life. It changes the priority of politics, of economy, of welfare, of culture, of everything. And of course, the risk for human lives. So we need for that the support of the home audience. Secondly, and no less importantly, is you want to influence the enemy. And of course, when the war drums are sound, then much less is, you don't hear much otherwise. So you have to penetrate that and persuade your target audience, the enemy audience, which is divided into roughly into army and civilians. And the more you manage to divide your target audience into sub-target and sub-audiences. So if we take the Israeli example, you have the reservists and you have the standard army. And then inside the army, you have the NCOs, the non-commissioned officers, and the officers. And if you want to set them against each other, and the Hamas messages would be, your kids are in the front line facing our snipers, while your neighbors' kids are doing allegedly cyber work in Tel Aviv, and they are having fun in the pub at night while you are freezing here in the front line.
And that divides society. So we've seen this in Israeli society where it's almost as though Benjamin Netanyahu is being blamed for not doing a hostage deal, even though it's Hamas who are sitting with the hostages. They keep feeding this information and almost antagonizing Israeli society.
Why almost? Especially, there's a lot of effort done into that.
Does this extend in the same way to American universities, where we're seeing left-wing, liberal Democrats, LGBTQ community, not effectively supporting Hamas, which is a complete absurdity, and find themselves supporting the very opposite of everything that they stand for, and doing so passionately?
The science of propaganda realizes that people can believe and conflicting ideas or ideologies simultaneously. We all drink coffee, we all use our cell phones, while we know that these two are very bad for our bodies and for our brains.
Hold on, stop there with that whole coffee business. Okay, we'll just move along. Cell phones, we can still on.
All right. White bread, all right, or whatever. It's because it's good, right? But sugar is good, whatever.
Sugar.
Yeah. All right. So I'll consume sugar, even though I know it's bad for me. All right. Famous Nazi quote saying by Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS. He says, what we need to do is get rid of the Jews in Germany before people would come to appeal to me that we should get rid of all the Jews except for my Jew. Okay, so you hate Jews, but you love your own Jew. I mean, the one,
doctor, your friend, your qualified Jew.
We tend to believe in conflicting beliefs, and live with that. We call it sometimes a cognitive dissonance. So therefore, we have some queer combinations of queers for Palestine, queers for LGBTQs for Hamas, which is a completely contradiction in terms.
So what are the techniques? There's techniques, there's themes. What are the general techniques that are used to influence?
One of the first marketing or persuasion techniques is guilt. If you can insert, we all use guilt. Well, the Jewish mothers were allegedly.
I was just going to say, we've mastered it.
Yeah, you have to finish your meal because kids in India would have loved to have what you throw away, etc., etc. Guilt sells. It's anybody in marketing will tell you that guilt sells. So why not use guilt in war? What they learned, General Giap, the North Vietnamese chief of staff with Arafat, they taught him how to change their strategies in order to be more effective.
But then surely Israel should have learned these lessons, and it isn't just a matter of providing the truth as Israel is accused of something, but surely we are running out of time. But my question is, how do we counter this? How do we, knowing that there's funding, know of divisiveness within Israeli, American, Western society, understanding that all sorts of techniques are used to further these goals, including the telling of the making up of facts that aren't true. How then do we deal with this in order to change this?
All the forces, the pro-Israeli forces, should learn the techniques and skills of spreading the word. There's no substitute. There's no way out. Nobody else will do it. Not the Israeli government, not the Israeli army, not the Mossad. They either don't know, or they cannot, or don't have the time, or don't think that is on their priority list. Anybody who supports Israel should get together and look for information and to spread information. It's not difficult. It's practically very easy on the process. And people need to realize it's a job. And if you say it's anti-Semitic, it's not going to help anyway. That's not going to be very helpful. So it's everyone should have their own 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day. It's just like a sort of a short prayer. What's on the media and what have I done today? And you need to acquire the skills. In Ariel University, I'm developing a course for that on countering anti-Semitism. So you need, first of all, learn about anti-Semitism, how it works, and the skills of how to counter it.
I love that, because that also says that it's not up to a couple of individuals, but absolutely every person can get involved to some extent, to a greater or less extent, to deal with it. We do need to leave it there. Ron Schleifer, Dr. Ron Schleifer, thank you for that. Absolutely fascinating. I love your feedback. Subscribe below, send me your questions and your comments, and I'll see you next time on Imagine If I Was Sensitive. I'm Howard Feldman. Thank you for joining us.